Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on That's It, That's All. I say that's it, that's all. We're going to be talking about The View from today, April 29th. I'm going to try to keep this video much shorter than the previous videos on The View have been. Alright, so here we go. First hot topic was on the recent tragedies, and frankly, they need to be called what they are: white nationalists, white supremacists, domestic terrorism, because that's what it is. Hopefully you've already watched the show, and so you got to see what the different ladies' take on these events over the weekend have been. I wholeheartedly agree with Joy Behar. I think the first thing that we have to do is we have to name it. We have to name it for what it is. We keep wanting to go through all these different things and try to conflate them together when they're separate issues. And actually, Newt Gingrich did that. He was a guest on today's show. I cannot stand that man whatsoever. It was a real pain to even get through his segment. But he tried to conflate these issues. The 19-year-old man that walked to that synagogue, or came to that synagogue, and took that woman's life and shot many others, and the man who threw that child over a balcony, those are not the two. These issues are not the same whatsoever. Now, I know why he wanted to talk about the man who threw the child over the balcony, because that person's skin is black. So that's the issue he wanted to talk about. But he didn't want to talk about this man going into that synagogue and shooting people, nor did he want to discuss about the gentleman who used his vehicle to run down some pedestrians, both of whom were Caucasian. He didn't want to discuss any of that. And though the issue at Mall of America and the issue in Southern California, the two are not at all the same. They're not even remotely related. That man who threw that child over the balcony at Mall of America said he was upset because women had been rejecting him. The young man who did who murdered and who did that domestic terrorism act at the synagogue, he's not yet said what his motivations were. But I believe that when we come to it, and when it all comes out in the wash, we're going to find out that this was about some white nationalism crap. I do agree with Megan on this. This whole 4chan, 8chan stuff, this dark web stuff, is very, very scary. And it's very, very dangerous. People are getting access and getting information and distributing things that they should not be distributing whatsoever. These things do not fall under the guidance of the First Amendment. There are some guidelines to the First Amendment. You can't just say any and everything. And if you don't believe me, go to a crowded theater and yell fire and see what happens to you. See if you get charged or not. There's public safety that has to always be thought about when we're talking about free speech. And that's where this stuff has gotten dangerous. Now, to the people, including Newt, who want to act like Donald Trump has nothing to do with this rise in hate crimes, in particular against, well, all the hate crimes are always committed against the same kind of people. We haven't seen one of these domestic terrorism hate crimes happen at a church like Joel Osteen's. And I'm not wishing for anything to happen to a church like Joel Osteen's, but I'm making a point. I'm making a point of comparison, if you understand. The domestic terrorism acts that we have seen happen in this country, they always seem to happen to persons who are of the Muslim faith, or who people are assumed to be of the Muslim faith, such as the sheiks. They're done at historically black churches, okay? And where else have we seen these things happen? I'm talking about this type of hate crime. Now, I know we've seen other instances of domestic terrorism, like with the shooting that happened in Las Vegas, where that madman killed over 50 people. You know, we have things like that. We're not this, but again, this is something separate. We're talking about the hate crimes that happen to religious groups. Because I do agree, they do happen to both Christian groups and Muslim groups, but I have noticed a pattern in the fact of these types of crimes never seem to happen at predominantly or historically all white or all Caucasian congregations. Now, you can make of that what you will. I know what I've made of it. But the reason that these people feel so emboldened to do what they're doing is because they have somebody in the White House who is speaking their language. I want you to think about this for a second. After September 11, 2001, one of the first things that then President George W. Bush did was to say that we stand together with our Muslim brethren and that we do not cast an aspersion on any religion or any people, because it's not the religion and it is not the people of the religion. It is bad actors within that. That was one of the first things that he did. The entire country was united after 9/11. I mean, people that you never thought would come together were coming together after 9/11, as tragic, because that's how tragic it was. If George W. Bush would have came out in that moment and started condemning Muslims and saying we're going to start banning all these countries, countries that we know are predominantly Muslim-based, or not Muslim-based, but of the Muslim faith. Can you imagine how bad that would have been for Muslims living in America? How disgusting that could have gotten in our country, considering that everyone at that point in the country was on the same pulse. We were all very upset about 9/11. There wasn't a single person in this country that did not feel some kind of way about 9/11. And if they did, God help them. We are now in 2019. And over the last several years, there has been a huge increase and uptick in hate crimes and hate groups. You take a look over the last 10 years and see what in this country is different, or what has been different. And again, you can make of that what you will. I know what I have made of it, but we are all open to our own interpretations. But it would seem to me that because the demographics in this country are changing and becoming much browner, much blacker, and much more female, there has been some reaction to that. And it would seem to me that the reaction to that is very well borne out in the fact of who is in the White House right now. That's the backlash and the reaction right there. And the fact that you would have somebody in the White House, number one, you have to look at all of it together. You have somebody in the White House who speaks the same language, who is giving, it's not even dog whistles anymore, who is saying these people are bad. And we don't want people from countries that practice this religion we don't want them over here. So you have that. Taking into account that you have the fact that this same person in the White House is saying that the FBI is scum, is eroding all your trust in all of our institutions that, frankly, before he came along was way eroded already, and they've done a good job of doing that on their own. They didn't need him, but he's adding to it. And then you take into the third account that this person in the White House is constantly demonizing the media and telling his people and people that would listen to him, people that would hear, these people in the media, everything that they say bad against me is bad against you, because and he literally did say this at his at the Republican convention, I am your voice, because I am your voice. So when they talk about me, they're talking about you, because we are in this together. All of those factors together combine to make a lethal it's a lethal combination, okay? And obviously not everyone is going to go to an extreme of trying to go and commit some violent act. There's enough people out there that will, and we see that time and time and time again. And the last point I want to make on today's show, to Megan's comment about Democrats eating their own or cannibalizing their own, whereas Republicans fall in line. Republicans do fall in line, but that's because by and large Republicans, you guys are a much more narrow group of people, and your groupthink is much more narrow as a result. The Democratic Party has a lot of people under it. There's a lot of constituencies to keep happy, and we are not at all alike. What we do share in common is that we want to see the country and we want to see people move forward with an equal opportunity, whereas Republicans have given up on that a long time ago. So she's right. Republicans do fall in line, but I think it's much easier to fall in line when everyone is looking, talking, acting, and kind of on your same, group speak. Not everyone in the Republican Party is the same. There is some, there are some differences, but I'm talking about the party at large. the party at large looks the same. And that is not true of the Democratic Party. And that has been a historical fact since the 1960s. Now, again, make of that what you will. There definitely was a huge shift around 1964, around 1965. Some historic legislation was passed, and it caused the party's makeup to drastically change, both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. So that was pretty much all for today. Newt Gingrich is just disgusting. He's been disgusting. Don't forget, this is the same guy when he was running for president said the kids in the inner city should work as janitors, and that would teach them a skill and give them something to do after school. You see what I'm saying when I say the party is all on the same group speak? Had he been nominated, he would have, his party would have fell behind him too. So that it's not a big deal to them when people say disgusting things. There is no way in hell Joe Biden can say something like that and the Democrats are going to just still line up behind him. No way. Or anybody else. Our party just, So for better or for worse, our party just is not built that way. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate you guys listening as always. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notifications so you can get all the newest videos as soon as they get uploaded. I'm going to be veering into some other stuff, some other topics, I should say. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start reviewing some other shows, political shows that I'm very much into, and we can connect on those bases as well. So I look forward to that, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say about today's show. And for now, that's it. That's all.